These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently, they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Whether to legalize recreational marijuana, but before they do, state lawmakers want to thoroughly explore the issue.
Although a hot topic in today's society, the war on legalization of marijuana has been a wedge issue since the late 1800s. America's relationship regarding marijuana started in the 19th century when its influence was adopted into the states from France. Its early use was for pharmaceutical purposes to stimulate appetite and treat illness such as diarrhea and cholera. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, marijuana was thought to be linked to violent crimes among minorities and low-class citizens, thus resulting in its ban in 29 states. Later on, in 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was passed by Congress, which officially criminalized the drug to those who did not have permission to use it medically. As the years progressed, the tables turned on both public and national opinion of drugs, including marijuana. The hippie movement and events like Woodstock brought forth a new image of drug use in the 60s. It was at this time that marijuana, LSD, and heroin were at an all-time high in terms of usage among teens and college students. Despite the increased popularity in drugs across the country, both Presidents Kennedy and Johnson found there was no link between violent crimes and the use of marijuana. Therefore, in terms of marijuana, policy was pushed towards progression of legal use. But everything changed come the 1970s when
it's stimulating, mind-expanding, safer to use than alcohol. It's the in thing, the hula hoop of the jet generation, and as much a part of growing up as smoking corn silk behind the back fence. Such are the myths concerning marijuana. Myths that lull thousands of young people into experimenting with the noxious weed. The facts are otherwise. Marijuana is an intoxicating, mind-muddling drug. Its use can lead to abnormal behavior, to psychological dependence, and to abuse of other drugs. The human brain, after all, is made for thinking, not fumigating. It's hardly a tinker toy for experimenting with drugs. This has been a public service message of the American Medical Association and your local station.
Good evening. Usually I talk with you from my office in the West Wing of the White House, but tonight there's something special to talk about, and I've asked someone very special to join me. Nancy and I are here in the West Hall of the White House, and around us are the rooms in which we live. It's the home you've provided for us.
Throughout the 1980s, Ronald Reagan and his wife Nancy Reagan began a highly publicized anti-drug campaign centered around the phrase, "Just say no." In 1986, Ronald Reagan signed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, which required mandatory sentences for drug-related crimes and use.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
We spoke with political speechwriter John Lamb on if he supports the legalization of the recreational use of marijuana.
Overall, I'm in support of it, and I think Colorado has done it the right way, and that has been validated somewhat by the fact that other states that have either done it already or who are still considering it and thinking about it oftentimes look to Colorado for the way that they implemented it along the way. And what I mean by that is they first passed medical marijuana. They first legalized that, and they came up with a very strict regulatory structure to do that, to prevent any of the marijuana product that was being produced for medical uses from ever getting outside of the system that it was intended for. There was a lot of concern and fear that as soon as they started to allow the product to be available, then the product would find its way onto the streets and just increase the supply on the black market, the illegal drug market. And so they first passed the medical marijuana law here by ballot measure. So it was written, volunteer effort to get it on the ballot, and then people were allowed to vote on it across the state. And those very strict regulations worked. The medical marijuana market took hold, and they didn't try to pass the recreational marijuana law until they had a good couple of years of proving that the strict regulations, which they call seed.
Let's fast forward to where we are today. Today's liberalization's efforts have largely succeeded in shaping the public's view on marijuana from a harmful drug to an economically beneficial medicine. When Colorado passed a ballot measure in 2012 legalizing recreational marijuana, more residents voted for legal marijuana than President Obama.